Somebody answer that one. Originals needed? No. Immigration will almost never ask for originals. So clear copies are great. Diplomas, degrees, transcripts. Originals? No, right? You send your originals, they'll get lost, you'll never get them back. Immigration will send them back, they don't want them sometimes. Just send copies. But these are required documents. Passport, of course, has to be there with some blank pages for the visa stamp and whatnot. I recommend sending a copy of every single page of the passport. Because again, they may want to know, did that guy go to Syria? You know, they want to match some of these things up. Just make sure it all looks legitimate. And for most of your people, it's going to be fine. The resume, I believe that's required. And it should all be consistent. Again, job titles on the resume should be consistent with job titles you mentioned in your H1B petition. Verification letters from previous employers could be required, but again, that's more of a nice to have kind of thing. Could be nice, helps document what's happened in the past. An educational evaluation is almost always required unless what? Where would they get a degree that they wouldn't need an evaluation? In the U.S. And in some cases, if they have a master's or higher degree in their home country that's in the field that is a specialty occupation, you may not need educational evaluation. My sense is, pay the extra money. It's like $100 or something. You get your educational evaluation and nobody sends you an, what's that word? That one. Okay. If you need to, you would send 2 recent pay stubs. That would be for H1B extension more than just new H1Bs like you're doing. Documents that are required if applicable. Any criminal record should be revealed. Okay. You ever seen that one come up? No? That's good. I-94 record would be if the person is in the U.S. Okay? For those of you who are preparing H1Bs now, and they're new people going for first time to U.S., is there an I-94 number anywhere? No. Is there a date of entry to the U.S.? No. It's just blanks. You fill out the forms as blanks, or you can write what? NA, none, something. I always send them a checklist to say, send your records for your family, like your children or spouse, marriage certificates, unless I know for an absolute fact that they are single. Even if they're single, send it anyway, you know, because then they can say I'm not, it lets them tell you affirmatively, I am not married, I don't have children, I'm not taking anyone with me. Because that can come up at the last minute, things happen. You ever seen that? When a person gets to the U.S. and their wife or child is with them on an H4, and maybe you only apply for the H1B person's extension and you forget the kids or the wife, do you know what happens to that husband or wife who's working and their spouse is left out and then extension? It's a bad picture. It's a scene you don't want to repeat anywhere because the wife or husband goes to their spouse and, I will kill you for this, you know? It's very sad. What's that?
You can see a divorce paper filed next day.
I've seen it. I've actually seen it happen. It's sad. I mean, a husband is like, oh, I forgot to mention I'm married to my employer, you know, and then they're sitting there. Ooh. I don't, you know, you can imagine. Anyone who's married here, you know, okay? That's death. That's like a death sentence for you. Okay? If you've been divorced, and again, India, the divorce rate is low, thank goodness, right? And most of you will not have this problem, but any prior marriages should also be documented in immigration processing so that they don't later come and say, oh, this is my wife, oh, here's my other wife, you know, and things like this. Nobody wants that. Other things from the company, many times we submit annual report if it's helpful, if it looks good. Brochures or color marketing materials and printouts from website. These are common that we would submit just, you know, to help the immigration service understand what the product is or what we do. But if your household names, Honeywell or others, you know, no one needs an introduction really. Alternatives to H1B visas. Sometimes there are people who are exempt from the quota. Typically, these are if you're working for a university or other things that will not apply to any of your workers, but there are some occasions where you might find someone who is exempt for some reason. Maybe they've had an H1B in the past. There's other ways you can try to avoid the quota. Again, short-term visits for these flexible trainings or come coming to do conferences and things could be the B1 visa. H1B1 for Chile and Singapore. H2B, kind of a headache, people. Kind of a headache to get. Anyone know how you go about? Has anyone done one or do these? No? It's a headache. You have to go through and almost do like an entire green card process, as it were, for some temporary visa that's only good for less than a year anyway, and can be extended a few times, but you have to just really show this is only for a temporary purpose, it's seasonal, it comes once in a while. Hence, none of you do it because it's sort of a headache. But it can be done. It really can. It exists. And I've seen it happen once in a while. The J1 program. You ever see these, or do any of your companies sponsor J1 work? Exchange workers?
Yeah.
Previously you did. So this is it's similar to student visa a little bit. It carries some benefits. Mostly it can be done very quickly. It's a flexible visa, but it carries a stinger. You know, like a bumblebee or a wasp or whatever, a hornet, you know? It has a stinger in that the person who gets a J1 visa, at the end of it, is supposed to leave the country of US for 2 years before they could ever come back and get a different visa. 2-year foreign residency requirement. So we don't usually do this one for most companies, but for some cases it could be good. And then even when the person gets there to US on a J1, sometimes they can request a waiver for that 2-year foreign residency. And that's a special practice that some lawyers do, and the individuals can do themselves sometimes. L1 can sometimes be used to avoid H1Bs if the person's worked for your company, and we're going to talk about that, how you get an L1, but those are sometimes advantageous. O1, has anyone done an O1 visa? You know what O stands for?
Outstanding.
Outstanding, that's right. That's an outstanding person. It's not a 0, okay? This is an O for outstanding. This person is, these are people who are usually at the top 5% of their field. They have international renown for what they do. There may be books or other publications written by or about this person. Household names. Some of your companies have these people, but usually they're going to hire some law firm to do this visa probably. That's just how it works. Because this guy, they can't drop the ball, you know what I mean? And not that you would, okay? Because you guys are better than a lot of the people I work with, I'm sure. But O1 visa, you know, that's for the what's a good word for that, you know? The creme de la creme, the big boys and girls. Now, when traveling, I get this question all the time, and maybe you do too. What do I need to bring with me when I travel on my H1B? What do I need to go to my visa stamping and this kind of thing? So these are common documents that you would need. Of course, your passport. If you go to the airport without your passport, you've missed the boat completely. You know, something you've really made a mistake. Again, divorces happen over this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It's just bad, bad, bad. Okay? I-94 card you would bring with you if you're already in the U.S. H1B approval notice, or the I-797. What do you guys usually call it? I-797? So that's the approval notice. The original, you don't want the employee coming around just with a copy. Copy of the petition that was filed. So generally that might be the entire petition that was filed for the individual. I think it's advisable to bring the whole thing. Current letter from your HR department, okay, saying you're employed, you continue to be employed in the H1B position. Recent pay stub or 2, usually 2, showing that you're still there and everything is fine. Allow yourself plenty of time before filing and all of that, so you don't need to be running around sweating and, again, having your family members curse you. Or someone else. Yes?
Would these documents be actually asked for at the port of entry?
Yeah. Yeah, they can be. I'd say generally not. But again, like, you know, the brother here was saying, you could get pulled into a room and questioned for an hour, maybe an hour and a half about these things. And then if you have the documents, they don't need to call your employer, they don't need to do all these things. You say, here it is. See, I'm still working.